Uh, well, started liking math a while back. Um, a few years ago, I started algebra, trigonometry, calculus. Um, like, and then since then, I've just kind of been all over the place. Like, I liked topology for a bit. Didn't really go into that much detail, but topology, modular arithmetic, complex numbers, fractals, number theory, that sort of thing.
Okay, so you're getting outside the standard things that you do at high school and interested in sort of math in general. So to speak. That's kind of how I got started. I got interested in. I had a very good teacher who started showing some of the kids in the class some math that we found more interesting, and it wasn't just the standard sort of school math where you do some calculation and get an answer to the problem. It was you had to think a bit harder.
Yeah. I have been like staying in the regular math classes just because I don't really want to not have to do anything that my classmates aren't doing. But like after school on 2 days a week, I have this kind of like a tutor. Like nowadays, he's just showing me contest problems, like AMCs and that sort of stuff. And
That's great.
And I train there's like not this your stuff. Although I have started doing the abacus thing. Do you know what that is?
No, tell me about that.
It's this Hungarian started competition. It's a worldwide thing, but like not many people submit. It's a math competition.
Okay. Oh yeah, that sounds like fun. I think you're quite right to not to want to do the same classes as all your friends are doing, and then do something extra.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to go.
Thank you.
If you're separated from the other kids in your class, it may work mathematically, but it doesn't work any other way. Yeah, that's right. And I found we used to actually, there was a little group of us, we used to sit at the back of the class and sort of do our own thing at times because the teacher was doing stuff he knew we already understood, but he still insisted we turned up in the class.
Mm-hmm.
And he sat us at the back so nobody else could see what we were doing. And then he would do extra work with us in his own time, which was that's impressive actually.
Nice teacher.
You got a lot to do, but he enjoyed it. So we did things like set theory, and we did some more advanced material similar to what we were doing in class, but going a bit further. And he had some favourite problems he used to set the kids who actually understood what they were doing, and we enjoyed doing those. But I think there's it's good to use your math to solve problems, to take part in these competitions or whatever. Because I think the more you use it, the better you understand it, and it's all at your fingertips.
So, could I ask you something?
Yeah.
Yeah, anything.
So, what gave you started? What got you started on like writing, not just for your peers, but like game set and math and that sort of thing?
Right. It kind of started when I was when I went to university, and I went to Cambridge, and they had a mathematical society called the Archimedeans, and it had a magazine every year, and I got to edit the magazine, and that involved getting interesting short articles on unusual bits of math. Okay, it was aimed at the math undergraduates, so you could assume quite a bit, but even so, the style of the way it was, it wasn't like a lecture, it wasn't like a textbook.
Right.
And then when when I moved to Warwick University as a PhD student, we started our own magazine for the students, a thing called Manifold, which was much less formal. Even though the Cambridge one was properly printed, ours was duplicated on sheets of paper and stapled together, which back in those days was the technology that was available. And we wrote quite a lot of the articles ourselves, and it kind of grew from that. The one turning point quite early on, because of this work with Manifold magazine, a couple of us were invited by a publisher that was setting up a new series to write a couple of puzzle books, so sort of mathematical puzzles. And then Penguin Books, which is a well-known...
I know about that.
Oh, you know about Penguin, yeah?
Yeah.
I knew the editor, and they wanted a book on chaos theory.
Oh.
And he said, asked me whether I'd be willing to write it, and I was kind of starting to get interested in that stuff at that point. So so I agreed to write the book.
And that turned into Does God Play Dice?
That's right. That was Does God Play Dice, which did a lot better than the publishers expected, and we all kind of woke up at that point. Thought, maybe there's, maybe this is something we can keep going.
Right.
And after that, I did one or two more popular math books. I enjoyed doing it. And then the New Scientist magazine started to notice.
Right, you were...
Scientific American, I did a column. I did Martin Gardner's column in Scientific American. And then BBC Radio over in the United Kingdom started asking me to do a few, short broadcasts on mathematically related stories in the news, and it kind of went from there, and it just grew and grew and grew. And I enjoyed doing it. Seemed to, the books did reasonably well enough.
Right. So do you feel that your writing style has changed over time? That you write differently in the beginning than you do now?
Yeah, I think so. It hasn't changed dramatically, but I think I have a slightly better idea of what I can get away with and what I can't. But it depends on the book. Different. You'll have noticed this if you look at some of them are more advanced than others. Some of them are.
Right, like Game Set Math is quite a different book than Does God Play Dice, for example.
Yeah, I kind of do 3 or 4 different kinds. The sort of Game Set Math type book, or the Professor Stewart's Cabinet of Mathematical Curiosities book, and so on.
That's a list
sort of things I would have enjoyed when I was in high school.
Right.
Whereas something like The Great Mathematical Problems, or I think it's called Visions of Infinity.
Oh, I remember that one.
Yeah, that's definitely aimed at people with a kind of higher mathematical ability and a more focused interest.
Yeah, I liked that one.
I write a few science fiction novels. And that, I do find that working with fiction, as well as popular math, has affected the style of the way I write. Because in fiction, you're trying to tell a story. Right. And you have characters, you have a whole pile of things which in a conventional math book you don't really have. But it does seem to me when you're doing popular math, you are actually telling stories. It's just that it's about mathematics and mathematicians.
And you also actually invent characters in books like Vine Math You've Got Me Into and Game Set and Math.
Yeah, I kept at various times I've done sort of mathematical games or puzzles type columns for various. It started with Scientific American, but since then I've done the occasional one for New Scientist. I did a regular series for a British newspaper. I've just finished 10 years of doing a regular monthly puzzle column for a British magazine called Prospect. And in all of those, having characters to help explain the puzzle firstly seemed to make them more friendly, instead of just sort of presenting here is a problem, solve it. No, you have a character. I think my favourite character of all of these is Colorado Smith, who is a version of Indiana Jones. And Colorado Smith is one of the is an archaeologist, except he's really a treasure hunter, just like Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And he has the same kind of a very exaggerated version of the same kinds of adventures, but it's a very good setting for a mathematical puzzle, because you can always, trying to get into some ancient tomb, you can always set the puzzle as part of getting into it.
Right.
So it's very sort of convenient framework in which to write puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
So so I have a lot of fun with that, and I just enjoy that kind of thing. I have a slightly warped sense of humour, and it shows up in those.
Also, I noticed, we noticed that you have written like over 60 books, and quite a few in this year alone. So
Yeah,
that's interesting.
I write a lot. My current publisher keeps telling me I'm writing too many books. It confuses people if there are several books appearing at much the same time.
So like working on 2 at once.
Especially when they're not for him. But then every so often, having told me I'm writing too many, I get emails saying, "Here's a really